What's going on, Dolphins fans? Jacob here, I'm a Dolphins Syndicate, and a little bit of a different video today. We've got caught up in a lot of a news-based content, especially over the summer where we had a lot of different things happening. But today, yes, it's just week one, and you see the title, it's very extreme. But today I want to get into the conversation of, do I think the Miami Dolphins are the best team in the AFC? I'm not going to say the entire NFL. The San Francisco 49ers looked incredible. And if you guys watched the end of the live stream last Wednesday, and just a little bit of a note, this Wednesday, today obviously, we're going to be doing a live stream 7 p.m. So this is going to be the preview for the New England Patriots game on Sunday. So make sure to tune into that. But from what we saw last week and what I predicted before the season even started, I predicted the Niners to win the Super Bowl. And they look like the best team in the NFL, top to bottom, just most complete, both sides of the ball. I think they're at a tier on their own, and then kind of conversation starts from there. And I have a hard time arguing anybody else for number 2 in the rest of the NFL. But before we even get to that, we have to look at the AFC as a whole. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down, go not team by team, but realistic conversation by realistic conversation as to whether the Miami Dolphins are the best team in the NFL. So with that, I'm going to start in our own division, where you have to look at is, at the very least, are you the best in your own division? It's been a long time since the Dolphins won the AFC East. And this is the first real chance that it looks like the Dolphins have of taking that crown back from the Buffalo Bills. Looking at the bottom feeders right now for the New York Jets, they had hope. And, I think as Dolphins fans, we'd be lying if we didn't say that, the Jets posed some sort of threat before Aaron Rodgers. The fact that they were still able to beat the Buffalo Bills without Aaron Rodgers just proves how good that their defense is. The offense isn't going to be holding up now that Rodgers is out, and they have a brutal schedule for the next 6 or 7 weeks or so. And I really expect them to bottom out, maybe win 1, maybe 2 of those games. So by week 8, that's going to leave them, I'm not sure where their bye week is, but call it 2-6. Patriots, they impressed me more than I expected to. I was saying all offseason long that I think they're going to be a top 5 team. I still think there's a solid chance that they do end up in the top 5. I think they caught the Eagles just at a really bad time where they got new coordinators. They haven't really done much in the preseason with their starters. So I think that was the perfect storm for them to beat the Eagles and still were not able to do so. I don't trust them. And then you look at the Buffalo Bills, who have won the division now multiple years in a row. The biggest threat to us. We beat them for the first time last year in 5 or 6 years. Went 1-3. Easily could have beat them all 3 times, but didn't. Fell just short in Buffalo the 2 times. And when you look at that Buffalo team, especially at that offense, the defense is still pretty solid. It's not great. It's not bad. It's a solid defense. But that offense, Josh Allen has incredibly regressed. 4 turnovers on Monday Night Football. His accuracy has gone down. If it's anybody but Stephon Diggs, it's probably not going to happen. There's no genuine connection that he has between any other wide receiver on that team. Looking at the ground game, James Cook had a decent game. Not great, not bad, a decent game. Behind him, Latavius Murray did nothing. Damian Harris did nothing. The rookie, what's his name? Dalton Kincaid didn't really get involved. We still want to know what we're going to get from Corey Davis. If it's not Diggs or if it's not Allen playing hero ball, the Buffalo Bills are a very limited team with a defensive head coach. And now that they've lost Brian Daboll, this is the second year without Brian Daboll. Since he's been gone, they just continue to regress on offense. Josh Allen is still, I don't know how long this is going to last. Josh Allen is still throwing his body at defenders. I mean, I was comparing him to John Morant, who just tries to dunk over everybody. I think it was a 3rd and 12. He's 5 yards short of the lines of gain, and he's trying to jump over 3 dudes to get the first down. That's not sustainable. Having Stephon Diggs as your only target is not sustainable. So just within our own division, there's nobody today that I'd say is clearly above the Dolphins, and I do expect us to go on and win the AFC East crown like I predicted in the live stream last week, as did Donovan. Donovan, a little more overzealous. He picked us as the number 1 overall seed, and how he played on Sunday and how some of the big dogs in the AFC looked, that's not entirely impossible. So within our own division, I do certainly think we are the best team in the AFC East. So then we have to look at some of the better teams in the AFC. I'm not going to bother to talk about teams like the Colts, like the Texans, like most of the AFC South outside the Jaguars. I'm not going to talk about the Las Vegas Raiders, the Denver Broncos, teams that we know are likely not to compete this season. We know the Dolphins are obviously better. I'm talking about teams like the team that we beat on Sunday, Los Angeles Chargers, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Ravens, the Bengals, teams in that flight. Obviously, the top dog is the Kansas City Chiefs, so we'll save them for just a second. Looking at the Cincinnati Bengals, I don't think that's the team that we're going to see for the rest of the regular season. That was the worst the Cincinnati Bengals will look all year long. I had them going to the game as a top 3 team. That's where I imagine they're eventually going to end up, is as somewhere in the top 3, maybe the top 5. But Joe Burrow had his arguable worst game as a pro, 89 yards, 3 total points. That's not going to be replicated. However, they did lose their 2 starting safeties, and they just cut Lyle Collins, so that is going to be a little bit of a detriment to the offensive line. Joe Burrow, we'll see how long this injury lingers for. If he is able to come to full health, they do have the best wide receiver trio in the league. The ground game is still missing, which, in credit, we still are missing our ground game. But we also end up with Jonathan Taylor. Joe Mixon was a no-show, really, for the most part during that game. Had very little impact, and that's something we saw from him a lot last year, except for that one game where I think he had like 50 fantasy points. Just absolutely went off, which is unrealistic to expect from him to do on a regular basis. Joe Burrow, with that injury, Jamar Chase didn't really get going. T. Higgins, I'm not as big a fan of T. Higgins as everybody else is. I think he's a good player, but I think when you look at Jamar Chase and him, it's a significant drop down. Like, he is still one of the best wide receiver 2s in the entire NFL, but don't get it twisted. He's still a wide receiver 2. Like, the jump between Jamar to him is much bigger than the jump from Waddle up to Tyreek Hill. Much bigger. I think by the time that the year ends around, they very well could be the second best team in the AFC. But certainly today, with how Joe Burrow played, how he's still coming back from his injury, is certainly nowhere near where the Miami Dolphins are. Los Angeles Chargers, simply put, we just beat them. I don't trust Brandon Staley, defensive-minded head coach with a younger quarterback. I think Justin Herbert has plateaued in his development, which is still a great quarterback, which is still arguably top 5, top 6, top 7 quarterback. It's not a bad spot to beat, but I have not seen that next step start to elevate. And as long as Brandon Staley's in charge, I like what they were able to do, bringing over Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator. And I was talking with Mannon, who was on the show last week, the live stream last week, as a Chargers fan. I was asking him last night if today you had to either cut ties with Brandon Staley and go into Kellen Moore, or keep Brandon Staley, what would you do? And I couldn't really get a clear-cut answer. So of the two, he did lean wanting to see Brandon Staley play it out. But I don't trust Staley. I don't trust his play calling. I don't trust his situational awareness. I don't trust his ability to coach his side of the ball. The Dolphins with Mike McDaniel, the offense is sharp. The play calling was incredible. Had Tua playing the best football we've really ever seen out of him outside of that Ravens game and that comeback. He's elevated Tua and gotten Tua to a better place than he was this time last year. Whereas Brandon Staley with the Chargers, he has done nothing to help his quarterback develop. I like the addition with the offensive coordinator of Kellen Moore, but one way or another, I imagine Kellen Moore isn't going to be there next year. Either he's a head coach for the Chargers, he's not going to be the offensive coordinator next year, whether it be he's the offensive coordinator or the head coach for the Chargers or head coach somewhere else, which that means a 4th consecutive year of a new offensive coordinator with Justin Herbert, and that is just going to continue to stifle his development while you have a defensive-minded head coach who is doing nothing to help him. We just beat that team. Their defense could not stop the passing game all day long. We couldn't stop their rushing attack all day long, but we ended up beating them in the end. So obviously I have us above the Chargers. The Ravens can't stay healthy. I've said it on record here multiple times. I don't think it's a big deal to have a second favorite team. The Ravens are my second favorite team, and a team that I've rooted for about 10 years now. They just can't stay healthy. And I'm not real certain that Lamar is going to be able to develop more into the pocket passer that this new offense is asking him to be. Now that he finally has Zay Flowers, who looked electric on Sunday. Odell, who had his moments on Sunday. We'll see how Rashad Bateman, if he can stay healthy. Just another member of this Ravens team that can't stay healthy. But you now have J.K. Dobbins out for this season. What's going to happen with Linderbaum, or whatever their center's name is? Stanley at left tackle. He's hurt. Marcus Williams might have a pec injury. They've got so many injuries around that team. They have so much talent, but are they ever going to reach their ceiling? It just seems like they're always held back from injuries. So I can't say that the Ravens are better. And realistically, that then leaves the Chiefs. Yes, the Browns had a good game, but Deshaun Watson didn't really look that good. The Steelers had a absolutely miserable game. Technically speaking, the Raiders are leading the AFC West. Don't care. One other team that I do want to mention is the Jacksonville Jaguars. And they had a bumpy start, but I think we can all agree Anthony Richardson as just in terms of week one, Anthony Richardson looked better than we expected him to. He looked poised. He looked like he had a decent understanding of the offense. He looked explosive. When he didn't have his option, he looked further along in his passing development than Justin Fields is. With Justin Fields, you can sometimes watch him stare down that number one wide receiver, and if it's not there or if he think it isn't going to go there, he doesn't have the ability to switch to the next man of the play. He just seems to try to book it, and the Packers did a good job of keeping him in the pocket, limiting those explosive plays, limiting the ability for him to get outside the pocket. Whenever they put pressure on him, he had a terrible game. I don't remember the stats off the top of my head, but he had a terrible game. Whereas you look with Anthony Richardson, the Jags threw some pressure at him, but he stayed poised. He was also able to use his wheels, and obviously he's not the refined passer that he can be, but he definitely shows some promise. And the Jags did a good job to bottle that up as good as they possibly could, even though, like I said, Anthony Richardson did look better than I expected him to. That Jags team is still very young. They have a lot of talent on defense that is very underrated, in my opinion. And then Trevor Lawrence, I think, is just going to continue to develop. Calvin Ridley looked amazing. He had, 7 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown, something along those lines. Easily could have had a second touchdown had he not stepped out of bounds going down the right sideline. I picked the Jacksonville Jaguars to be the number 1 seed. And yes, they didn't look great on Sunday, but I still am holding that prediction on the basis of their division is just terrible. They're not going to have a lot of games where they're expected to lose, especially within their own division. They play the Chiefs this week. I'm very tempted to pick the Jags. Very, very tempted to pick the Jags. I haven't made an official decision. Me, Donovan, and a few friends are going to pick them. We'll get there when we get there. But I love the development of the Jags. Their ground game is still, Tank Bigsby got a touchdown and still somehow found a way to have less than 6 fantasy points. You get 6 fantasy points from a touchdown. He had a touchdown and he finished with 5.3. Obviously, that means he had a fumble, but I digress. I almost said Ramondre Stevenson. Travis Etienne, good player, very good utility player. Not sure if he's particularly good at one individual thing. I like him. I don't love him, but he's part of the team. Trevor Lawrence, love Trevor Lawrence. I think he is, at some point in his career, going to end up as a top 3 quarterback. If he's not already top 5, he's getting there. I think by the end of the season, he will be top 5, especially you look at the regression we saw in Josh Allen. If Joe Burrow even comes close to playing for the rest of the season, how he played on Sunday, Trevor Lawrence just step by step is just continued that development in a very positive nature. So the Jaguars, I'd say, are the second best team in the AFC right now, maybe, ahead of the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, they didn't have Travis Kelce. I fully understand that. I fully understand they didn't have Travis Kelce. Outside of Travis Kelce, outside of Patrick Mahomes, what on God's green earth does that offense have? I mean, who is their number 1? Technically speaking, it's probably Kadarius Toney. 1 catch for 1 yard, caused the turnover, dropped 3 or 4 passes. Sky Moore, what is he doing? What is he developing into? 2nd-round pick, haven't seen him really develop. Rasheed Rice, was probably the best player not named Patrick Mahomes on offense for the Chiefs on Thursday. And again, just is he good? Maybe. He's got some height to him, decent route runner. It has hands that can do this on a football at the very least. That's more than most Chiefs receivers can say. Travis Kelce will be coming back. Chris Jones will be coming back. But that team, they've lost, the team's getting chipped away slowly. Like, there hasn't been a lot of major losses on the team, like, over the years, obviously besides Tyreek Hill last year. But it's like they lose a safety here, they lose a right tackle there, they lose a right, like they just keep losing these pieces, and eventually Patrick Mahomes isn't going to be the end all be all for this Chiefs offense, and that then leaves us with the Miami Dolphins. Miami Dolphins led the league last week on offense in terms of sacks, as Tua did not get sacked at all. Tua led the league in passing. Tyreek Hill led the league in reception yards. The ground game is still work in progress, but it almost doesn't matter, because if you can have your leading rusher finish with 31 yards, I believe we have had 70 yards total on the ground, something along those lines. If you can have 71 yards on the ground and still get 466 passing yards, that's a good football team. That's a football team that can move it on what is the most expensive defense in the entire NFL. Arguably the 2 best edge rushers, like the team with the best edge rushers in the league. Khalil Mack one side, you have Bosa on the other side. They didn't touch him. The only time Bosa touched Tua, as far as I can remember, was the face mask penalty. 0 QB pressures, 0 sacks, barely got in the backfield against our backup left tackle. We are still not 100% on the offensive line. Teron Armstead, cross your fingers, he will play on Sunday, especially with Matt Judon on the other side. You definitely want to see your best offensive lineman out there. But we're still not there yet. And that 5, which is being picked and pulled together, had a lot of criticism last year. You have our backup left tackle, you have Austin Jackson, who missed virtually the entire season, and even then, we don't even know if he's good. Those two, Kendall Lamb and Austin Jackson, had the best game of their lives in a Dolphins uniform. Defense sucked, most part. Defense is still without Jalen Ramsey, Xavier Howard. Let's be real, sucked, and didn't get a lot of pressure on Herbert until the well-timed 2 blitzes on back-to-back plays. Might have even been back-to-back plays because they had the intentional grounding, then they had a sack, and then another sack to finish the game. It was a very bend, not break, and it broke a lot of the game, but when it mattered, they got in the backfield, they stopped Justin Herbert, and they won the game. The offense is beautiful. It might even get better because Jalen Waddle's not 100%. Teron Armstead didn't play, and Jonathan Taylor still has a Colt on his helmet, and he's still not playing. Though all 3 of those things, definitely 2 of those things in the very near future will switch the way in favor of the Dolphins, with a 3rd right around the corner potentially too. There's nobody in the AFC I'm putting above the Dolphins right now. The offense is too electric. The defense only has room to grow. Mike McDaniel is continuing to flourish as head coach and just as an offensive genius. He's separated himself enough from Kyle Shanahan and his offense in putting his own stamp on what the Dolphins are doing. They're not going for these short to intermediate route passes and trying to get the yak. We still had a lot of yak on Sunday, but that was due to just getting guys open. Tyreek Hill getting wide open and be able to take the ball and go on with it. Tua had the most amount of yards per attempt last week. We look back to last year, had the most amount of yards per attempt for the entire season. So it's clearly not a fluke. It's clearly something that they're trying to do with this offense, and it's continued over into this year against what's supposed to be a very good defense last week, and now has another opportunity to do it against the Patriots this Sunday. I think that the Miami Dolphins are the best team in the AFC today. I think they continue to prove that on Sunday. And then we got to just sit back and watch how the rest of the season unfolds. But I feel very confident going into the regular season off of what I saw. Well, the rest of the regular season after what I saw on Sunday. Are you confident? Let us know down below. And make sure, 7 o'clock, we will be live. Miami Dolphins Syndicate. We will be live. We don't have a guest this week. Couldn't get a Patriots fan to pop in with us. So it's just going to be Donovan and I. Deal with it. Make sure you tune in. Make sure you have a good time. Make sure you guys get involved. But as for now, Jacob Kelly, Miami Dolphins Syndicate. Really appreciate y'all watching. I hope all y'all have a great rest of your day. Take care, everybody.